1932. New Guinea. The jungle alive with whispers. Hunters prepared for the morning hunt. Spears in hand, eyes scanning the dense undergrowth. The mist clung to the treetops, thick and unyielding. No one suspected that this day would mark the beginning of an ordeal that would haunt the region for decades. They called it the Nightwing Shadows, but what that really meant, no one could fully explain. The first reports came quietly, almost dismissively. A patrol officer, J. Harrington, wrote in his journal, "A party of 3 hunters departed at dawn. By nightfall, not a trace remained. Fires still warm. Belongings left untouched. Only footprints leading into the unknown." Colonial maps marked the region as impassable. Jagged ridges and ravines cut through the jungle. A natural labyrinth, yet even that could not account for the total disappearance. Villagers murmured of shadows moving faster than men. Figures with wings black as night eyes reflecting the moon. They said the hunters were lured into the trees, drawn away by voices that sounded human, yet echoed with something else. The elders warned, "Do not follow the shadows, or you will never return." Their words were dismissed by the outsiders. Superstition, they thought, until more hunters vanished, one by one. The pattern was unnerving. Each hunting party left the village at first light. Each night, none returned. The jungle kept its secrets. Patrols were sent. Searches mounted. All reports noted the same chilling detail. The hunters disappeared without struggle. No blood. No sign of conflict. Only the lingering sense that something watched, something waited. Local folklore intertwined with colonial fact. Tales of the Nightwing Shadows were older than the patrol reports. Whispered stories of creatures perched in the canopy, waiting for travelers to stumble into their domain. Villagers claimed to hear flapping at night, shrill cries echoing across valleys, a warning or perhaps a lure. Hunters who returned if any spoke of being pursued, feeling eyes on their backs, hearing whispers in the wind, claiming to see friends vanish before their eyes. And yet when they turned, nothing was there. The air itself seemed to thicken. The jungle breathed with a life that was not human. Nights were filled with unnatural sounds, the rustle of wings too large, the snapping of branches too deliberate, and the constant, pervasive darkness that seemed to swallow the unwary. J. Harrington noted, "Even the most experienced trackers hesitate to enter the ravines at dusk. They fear what cannot be seen." By mid-October, 7 hunters had vanished within 3 weeks. The colonial office began to document the occurrences. Telegrams sent to Leh reported empty camps, abandoned tools, spears planted in the ground as if marking a ritual, footprints ending abruptly on cliff edges. The most unnerving detail, the earth appeared untouched. No evidence of a fall, no signs of struggle, only absence and questions that would never be answered. The shadows were not merely stories. They were warnings, a motif repeated across the highlands, every disappearance echoing the last. Yet the world beyond the jungle remained skeptical. Science demanded evidence, but in the mist of Mount Hagen, evidence dissolved, leaving behind only fear whispers and a mystery that would endure. And so begins the chronicle of men who hunted and were hunted, of shadows that glide silent, patient, and unseen, of a jungle that keeps its secrets well. The Nightwing Shadows waited, always waiting. 1932. Mount Hagen, New Guinea. Dawn broke over jagged ridges, painting the misty valleys in pale gold. Smoke curled from village fires, mingling with the humid morning air. Hunters emerged from stilted huts, bare feet silent on wooden planks. Their eyes, sharp and alert, scanned the jungle edge where darkness lingered. Spears gleamed, bowstrings taut, knives honed to perfection. Each man carried the weight of experience, yet none foresaw the peril that waited. The jungle seemed calm, yet alive. Birds flitted through thick vines, their calls echoing oddly through the mist. Somewhere beyond, the first shadows moved, unseen, patient, deliberate. The villages lay scattered like forgotten relics. Narrow paths wound between wooden homes on stilts. Children played cautiously near rivers, while elders whispered tales of the Nightwing Shadows. Their eyes darted into the treetops. Voices lowered in fear. Every morning, hunters departed, their silhouettes swallowed by the fog. Families waved silently, dread creeping into hearts. Patrol Officer J. Harrington recorded tracks lead into dense canopy. Men vanish without struggle, fate unknown. The colonial presence was small, maps incomplete, the jungle vast and unforgiving. The terrain was a labyrinth, rivers twisting like silver snakes, cliffs dropping abruptly into fog, sudden ravines hidden beneath moss and vine. Hunters moved with precision, yet the forest seemed to shift around them. Sounds carried strangely. Snapping branches, distant flapping, shadows that could not be traced. Villagers claimed the trees themselves conspired, that those who wandered too far disappeared into another world. Even seasoned hunters felt eyes upon them, a constant vigilance that gnawed at their minds. Every step could be the last. Every misstep could vanish into silence. The first disappearances were subtle. A hunter left behind. A camp abandoned mid-meal. Fires still warm. Possessions untouched. Only footprints leading into the dense jungle. In some cases, trees bore claw marks as if something had watched. Observers noted an eerie calm. Birds silent, wind still. The jungle holding its breath. Telegrams to Lay described searches yielding no trace. 7 hunters gone in 3 weeks. Panic whispered through villages. Superstition growing. Shadows moving faster than men. Colonial skepticism battled local lore. Harrington noted patterns. The men vanish where the ground appears solid. No evidence of fall. No struggle. It is as if they stepped from one realm to another. Villagers' stories wove a different tapestry. Nightwing shadows gliding above the canopy, eyes glinting with unnatural light, voices echoing names, luring travelers. Hunter accounts were fragmented, inconsistent, yet shared a chilling commonality. Every testimony hinted at something beyond human comprehension. A predator not of this world. Hunting parties left at first light. The mist clung to their bodies. Spears slung across shoulders, eyes darting, hearts pounded as they approached ravines hidden beneath vines. Each valley seemed endless, rivers twisted unpredictably. Mist hung low, concealing movement. The forest itself seemed alive. Snapping twigs echoed like gunshots. Shadows shifted above, sometimes tangible, sometimes imagined. Yet every hunter knew the stakes. Return meant life, failure oblivion. Night brought unnatural sounds, a whisper in the leaves, flapping too large for birds. Hunters paused, calling out to one another. Silence answered. Heartbeats thundered. The jungle swallowed replies. Trees loomed like silent sentinels. Footsteps faltered. Fear sharpened senses. Hunters spoke in hushed tones. Warnings repeated. Do not stray, the Nightwing watches. Yet curiosity or duty propelled them deeper into the canopy, into darkness. Villagers watched from platforms, children peeking, elders muttering prayers, smoke from fires tangled with mist. Dogs refused to leave huts. The air thickened, Every rustle of leaf or vine became suspect. Patrols sent days later found abandoned camps, spears planted in the earth, tools arranged neatly, nothing disturbed, no struggle, no blood, just absence, and an ever-growing dread. The forest consumed explanations as readily as men, leaving fear to fill the void. Paths were treacherous, hidden ravines, sudden cliffs. Hunters relied on instinct. Yet missteps were common. The ground seemed to conspire, branches snagging, vines twisting unexpectedly. Sounds echoed in misleading directions. A whisper here, a flapping there. Trees shifted with shadows that moved contrary to wind. The forest became a labyrinth of uncertainty. Survival required vigilance, courage, but even those were not enough. The unseen watched patiently, calculating, relentless. Elders recounted lunar cycles. Certain nights the Nightwing Shadows were said to be most active. Hunters returning told of eyes glinting above the canopy, of voices that sounded like friends, calling from unseen places. The terrified ran. Some never returned. Others described flapping wings above them, shadows gliding faster than sight. The stories blurred fact and legend. Yet each disappearance echoed the last, patterns impossible to ignore. Fear became part of everyday life. Colonial observers struggled to reconcile accounts. Harrington's notes reveal unease. Tracks end abruptly. The ground undisturbed. Men vanished as if lifted by unknown force. The forest offers no answers, only questions. Letters to superiors describe searches yielding no trace. Patrols hesitant, villagers terrified. Everyday reports layered more mystery atop fear. Shadows became part of the landscape, both literal and psychological. Men who ventured deep did not return, and those who did were changed. The jungle seemed endless, ridges rolling into the horizon, rivers cutting like knives, vines snared feet, mud swallowed shoes, mist obscured movement. Even seasoned hunters navigated slowly, every echo amplified, rustling leaves, falling branches, distant cries. They moved cautiously, aware that observation alone might not suffice. The Nightwing Shadows, or whatever lurked, were patient. They waited. They chose their prey carefully. Harrington recorded villagers' warnings. Do not follow the shadows, or you will never return. Yet curiosity or necessity led men into danger. Small groups confident yet nervous, carrying spears, knives, rifles. Each step deeper increased the tension. The forest thickened, sounds distorted, shadows merged with the mist. Fear became tangible, almost visible. Every motion scrutinized, the hunter's senses stretched, anticipation mounting. By mid-October, 7 hunters had disappeared. Telegrams to Leh reported empty camps, abandoned meals, warmth of fires, tools arranged as if untouched. Footprints ended abruptly. Patrols scoured the area, but returned empty-handed. The jungle held secrets tightly, both fact and folklore merging. The Nightwing Shadows, no longer stories, now actors in a theater of fear. Silence and absence replaced men. Mystery dominated every step. The stage was set. Dense jungle, narrow ridges, sudden ravines, mist-laden valleys, hunters' routines, villagers' warnings, colonial scrutiny. All converged in tension-filled tableaus. Every rustle, every shadow, every flap above carried meaning. The Nightwing Shadows were more than myth. Their presence shaped actions, dictated survival, blurred lines between legend and reality. Fear became their constant companion, and the watchers in the treetops remained unseen, yet ever present. Colonial records from Leh District began to accumulate. Patrol officer reports, telegrams, and fragmented journal entries all pointed to an unsettling pattern. On October 2, 1932, a hunting party of 3 Kauai Toma and Lisu departed at first light. Their objective was routine small game for the village, a journey they had taken countless times. Yet that day, the jungle seemed to swallow them. By dusk, they had not returned. Scouts found their camp intact, fires still smoldering, tools neatly arranged, but the hunters themselves were gone. No struggle, no blood. Only footprints leading into dense foliage that ended abruptly. Subsequent search parties reported similar occurrences. October 5th, another team left the village and never returned. 3 men vanished. The patrol officer J. Harrington chronicled his findings meticulously. Tracks end where the ground is firm. No signs of collapse or erosion. No indication of injury. The men have simply disappeared. Fate unknown. Letters to Leh emphasized the puzzling nature of these losses. Each report layered more tension atop fear. Villagers grew anxious. Superstition crept into daily life. Harrington's notes also included interviews with survivors, hunters who had previously returned from the forest. They spoke of flapping sounds above the canopy, shadows moving faster than the eye could track, whispers calling their names, the sensation of being followed. One hunter described waking at midnight to find all his tools missing, only the spears left standing in the ground, arranged in circles as if by unseen hands. These accounts, though anecdotal, were carefully noted by colonial authorities. Maps of the region indicated the highlands were treacherous. Jagged ridges, hidden ravines, and rivers twisting unpredictably. Trails that seemed familiar became disorienting within minutes. Dense canopy blocked sunlight, leaving the forest floor dim even at midday. Mist and humidity distorted sounds. Leaves rustling could resemble footsteps. Flapping could be mistaken for birds. Yet the cumulative evidence could not be explained by natural phenomena alone. 7 hunters vanished within 3 weeks. The telegrams sent to Leh reflected both urgency and disbelief. Search parties report empty camps, belongings undisturbed, tracks ending abruptly. Villagers increasingly fearful. Requests for additional patrols. Colonial officers debated causes. Animal attacks, landslides, brigands. All were dismissed due to lack of evidence. No corpses, no blood. The disappearance was absolute. The jungle patient, silent, yet seemingly aware. Colonial observers began noting peculiar environmental details. Trees showed claw marks, inconsistent with any known animal. Branches snapped without apparent cause. Animal tracks often led nowhere. Hunters' personal items left undisturbed. The air carried faint scents, smoke from campfires, decaying leaves, but no human presence. Harrington's reports suggested the possibility of human error. But even experienced trackers could not account for the disappearances. By mid-October, reports cataloged the cumulative loss: 7 men gone, camps, abandoned, evidence intact. Villagers insisted it was the Nightwing Shadows. Elder accounts spoke of winged creatures with glowing eyes, moving silently through the canopy, observing, waiting. The hunters' families were terrified. Fires burned all night as prayers were offered. Children were forbidden to play near the jungle edge. Adults avoided venturing out. Harrington compiled survivor statements. Recurring motifs emerged. Shadows above the canopy. Voices calling names. Companions disappearing mid-step. Mist that thickened unnaturally. trees that seemed to shift positions overnight. Even skeptics could not ignore the frequency of these reports. The forest itself was an enigma, a labyrinth that consumed men without trace. Colonial medical officers were consulted. No signs of poisoning or disease were found. Men had vanished in perfect health. Patrols equipped with rifles and machetes returned empty-handed. The official reports acknowledged frustration. The unexplained was now undeniable. Even seasoned hunters approached expeditions with trepidation. The unknown loomed larger than ever. J. Harrington's journal included environmental observations. Temperatures fluctuated inexplicably. Sudden gusts of wind in still valleys. Leaves rustling, though no animal present. Echoes seemed distorted. Footsteps amplified. Voices carried strangely. These details were included to provide a comprehensive record, yet no explanation emerged. The jungle retained its secrets. Colonial officers considered local knowledge. The elders' stories were detailed. Nightwing Shadows were said to appear during certain lunar phases. They were guardians of the forest, or perhaps harbingers of death. Some villagers insisted the shadows could mimic human voices, calling travelers deeper into the jungle. Return was possible only by the forest's mercy. These oral histories were recorded alongside patrol reports, an uneasy mix of folklore and observed phenomena. The cumulative fact layer revealed patterns. Hunters vanished where the terrain was most complex. Tracks always ended abruptly. Tools and possessions left in place. Observers noted a psychological effect. Fear magnified. Even rational men began doubting their senses. The forest became a character, alive, patient, and untraceable. Every report reinforced the mystery. The forest seemed to absorb men and explanation alike. Searches intensified. Patrols attempted night observations, climbing trees, watching ravines. Nothing. No bodies. No signs of struggle. Yet some patrols reported flapping sounds, shadows passing overhead, fleeting glimpses of motion too fast to follow. These were carefully documented, some dismissed as imagination, others noted for their consistency. The pattern persisted. Mysterious occurrences recurring. Harrington concluded the October entries with unease. Even the most experienced trackers hesitate. Men vanish without struggle. The ground offers no clue. The forest provides no answers. Only absence. Only questions. These words summarize the fact layer, the verifiable records. The next layer, folklore, would only intensify the chilling impression. Shadows, whispers, flapping wings, men swallowed by a patient observing jungle, all factually documented, yet inexplicable. The villagers spoke of the Nightwing Shadows as if they were older than memory itself. Wings black as midnight eyes, glowing like embers in the mist. They glided silently above the treetops, faster than any human could track. Hunters returning described a constant presence, invisible yet palpable. Names whispered from nowhere, familiar yet wrong. The forest itself seemed alive, patient, deliberate, observing. Mist thickened unnaturally, clinging to limbs and faces. Every rustle of leaves a warning, every shadow a test. Fear was both guide and predator. Tales told of hunters waking in the dead of night. Fires still warm, knives and tools missing. Spears planted in precise cryptic patterns. Shadows hovering above the canopy, circling, descending, retreating. Drawing men deeper into the jungle. Heartbeats accelerated. Breaths caught in throats. Senses stretched to their limit. Every sound amplified. Every flicker of movement suspect. Obedience to the forest was survival. Defiance meant disappearance. The Nightwing Shadows enforced boundaries silently. Mist rolled thick through valleys obscuring familiar paths. Trees twisted strangely, branches bending unnaturally. Hunters stepped cautiously, every footfall amplified. Leaves rustled though the air was still. Shadows moved beyond perception, darting through the canopy. Voices echoed, calling friends by name. Familiar, then warped. Panic clawed at hearts. The forest tested patience, endurance, understanding. Hunters realized survival required more than skill. Instinct alone would not suffice. An elder recounted Toma, a hunter, who vanished mid-step. His companions froze as a shadow descended. Wings brushed the treetops. Eyes molten gold glinted from the canopy. A cry rang out, then silence. Only the forest remained. Years later, children retold the story around fires. Curiosity punished, respect demanded. The Nightwing Shadows enforced rules without sound or trace. Intruders were marked. The forest remained sovereign, unseen, eternal. Experienced hunters admitted the forest played tricks. Shadows stretched unnaturally. Mist bent light. Sounds misplaced. Branches snapping without wind. Hunters hesitated. Silence oppressive. Every rustle became threat. Perception unreliable. The forest a living labyrinth. Hunters questioned reality. Instinct battled with terror. Decisions weighed life and death. Fear became both companion and teacher. Every step measured, survival fragile. The folklore influenced daily life. Hunters avoided tree lines, children forbidden near edges. Elders repeated warnings, offerings left at paths. Fires lit to appease unseen eyes. Shadows sometimes protective, sometimes predatory. Men respected the forest's dominion. Myth and reality merged. Every movement scrutinized, obedience rewarded, defiance punished. Fear became integral to survival. Stories reinforced caution. Respect shaped behavior. Survivors described flapping above the canopy, enormous wings blotting sunlight, shadows gliding silently, eyes glowing, watching, following, voices called names, familiar then twisted, luring hunters deeper. Mist thickened unnaturally. Branches swayed without wind. Hearts raced. Every instinct tested. The forest enforced boundaries invisibly. Men learned patience, observation, reverence. The Nightwing Shadows became law and legend. Colonial patrols documented the accounts. Skepticism challenged folklore. Yet descriptions were consistent. Environmental anomalies noted. Tools displaced. Fires warm then cold. Tracks ending abruptly. Shadows glimpsed above. Voices calling names. Hunters' minds strained. Fact and folklore intertwined. Tapestry of fear. Forest a silent, patient actor. Unseen, deliberate. Observation constant. Presence eternal. Lunar phases seemed to influence activity. Full moons bringing greater danger. Mist thickening. Shadows gliding silently. Hunters sensing eyes on their backs. Voices echoing. Sometimes mimicking cries for help. Sometimes laughter. The forest communicated warnings through perception and legend. Ritual and caution dictated survival. Nightwing Shadows became enduring presence. Teacher, guardian, judge. Patterns repeated across generations. Valleys, ridges, and time. Environmental anomalies persisted. Sudden fog. Rustling leaves. Flapping overhead. Shadows moving beyond sight. Objects mysteriously rearranged. Fires smoldering. Hunters' perception distorted. Reality blurred. fear internalized, shadows testing boundaries, forest asserting dominion, invisible, relentless, intelligent, observation continuous, patience eternal, every sound, movement, or light interpreted as warning. Survival became instinctive, ritualized. Even decades later, researchers noted echoes of the same pattern. Campsites abandoned, tracks ending abruptly, tools intact yet shifted, flapping above, shadows glimpsed, mist rolling unnaturally, environmental oddities, witnesses' eyes haunted, speech hesitant, movements cautious, fear preserved stories, Nightwing Shadows endured, myth and reality inseparable, intrusion punished, observation eternal, patterns reinforced respect, hunters learned caution, rituals repeated, fires lit at dusk, offerings left, children instructed, adults vigilant. Nightwing Shadows remained ever present, enforcing rules, punishing intrusion. Forest communicated silently, boundaries clear, fact and folklore fused, pattern persisted, patient, unbroken, eternal. Fear became legacy. Survival dictated by observation. Hunters' tales became warnings. Villagers taught lessons. Stories of vanished men circulated, eyes glinting, wings gliding, voices echoing, mist thickening, shadows descending, hunters returning changed, silent, cautious, haunted, fear engraved into daily life, respect enforced through legend, survival entwined with obedience, myth and fact inseparable, forest sovereign, shadows eternal, presence unbroken. The forest itself was a character. Shadows mist rustling leaves, observation constant, presence patient, wings gliding silently, voices calling, paths disappearing, objects moved, fires extinguished unnaturally, hunters' perception challenged, fear internalized, survival conditioned, legends reinforced, boundaries enforced, mystery preserved, fact and folklore fused, Nightwing Shadows endured, eternal, unseen, inevitable. The shadow of Mount Hagen stretched across the misty valleys. The air was heavy with anticipation. Villagers moved cautiously along narrow paths. Children peered from stilted huts. Elders whispered warnings about the Nightwing Shadows. Hunters prepared at dawn, sharpening spears, checking bowstrings, glancing at the treetops. Every rustle of leaves set hearts racing. The mist clung to the slopes, hiding what might be waiting. Something unseen observed their departure. Patient, silent, calculating. Reports of disappearances began to echo across distant highlands. Small hunting parties vanished beyond sight. Paths they had walked countless times turned treacherous. Rivers twisted unpredictably. Jagged ridges obstructed vision. Mist thickened unnaturally. Hunters felt the forest itself shifting, branches snapping without wind, shadows darting faster than comprehension. The villagers murmured that the Nightwing Shadows moved beyond the canopy, always watching, silently choosing their moments. Colonial officers cross-referenced telegrams and patrol reports. Incidents in Mount Hagen mirrored others near the Sepik River. Hunters disappeared in almost identical fashion. Possessions left untouched, tracks ending abruptly, fires still warm. The pattern suggested more than coincidence. The villagers nodded knowingly. The forest had rules. The shadows enforced them. and the soldiers and hunters realized they were intruding on an unseen authority. Patient, relentless, elders recounted rituals designed to appease the forest. Hunters were instructed to leave offerings, avoid certain paths, heed signs. The forest responded. Disappearances were selective. The Nightwing Shadows were not mindless predators. Their presence was a language. The forest spoke through mist, shadow, and sound. Hunters who respected it returned altered, wiser, shaken. The bridge connected fact and folklore, creating a framework to understand the unexplainable. Each new report added weight to the pattern. Hunters reported voices mimicking friends, flapping sounds overhead, shadows moving in impossible directions, trees clawed by unknown forces, branches snapping without cause, mist thickening unnaturally. The forest seemed to play with perception. Survivors' statements were consistent, each echoing the others, across valleys, across years. A motif emerged, linking Mount Hagen to distant highlands. The bridge revealed the psychological effect on hunters. Fear sharpened awareness, yet distorted perception. Every sound misinterpreted, every shadow suspicious. Hunters hesitated at tree lines. Voices calling out names created panic. Small errors led to separation. Moments of indecision carried consequences. The forest became both labyrinth and judge, enforcing its rules with an invisible hand. The pattern was unmistakable. Villagers reported unusual environmental changes, fog rolling into valleys, unnatural silence, flapping sounds not attributed to birds, objects rearranged overnight. Hunters noted sudden gusts, air thickening inexplicably, footsteps echoing where none existed. The bridge connected these details, revealing a web of phenomena repeated across geography, each reinforcing the motif of the Nightwing Shadows across decades. Even distant patrols encountered similar events. October 1939. Hunters near Sepik vanished. Tools left intact. Fires warm. Tracks ending abruptly. Whispers in the wind. Shadows observed from above. Hunters describing glowing eyes in treetops. The pattern was no longer localized. The motif became a shared narrative, linking events separated by miles, forests, and generations. The bridge also illuminated behavioral patterns. Hunters who ignored warnings vanished. Those who obeyed survived, often returning altered, eyes haunted, speech hesitant. Children taught caution. Adults enforced restrictions. The Nightwing Shadows served as both myth and reality, enforcing forest rules, instilling respect. The bridge merged survival legend and fact, forming a continuous framework across incidents. Colonial records highlighted the motif: telegrams, patrol notes, journal entries. Each disappearance echoed previous ones. Environmental anomalies noted, tools undisturbed, tracks ending abruptly, branches clawed, sounds unexplained. The Nightwing Shadows acted as a connecting thread, unifying events, fact and folklore intertwined. The bridge revealed a persistent, almost systemic presence, shaping fear, behavior, and narrative. Villagers' stories spoke of lunar cycles, certain nights more dangerous than others. Hunters reported flapping above the canopy, voices calling names, shadows descending silently, mist thickening. Forest floor disturbed without explanation. The pattern repeated across regions, across years. The bridge confirmed a recurring phenomenon, a presence that transcended geography, linking hunters' events and fear. Psychological effects deepened the motif. Survivors described feelings of being followed, unseen eyes tracking movement, whispers from unknown directions. fear compounded by isolation. The forest seemed sentient, patterns repeated across valleys, across villages, across time. The bridge highlighted continuity, a template of disappearance, shadow, and dread, connecting Mount Hagen to a wider legend. Even skeptics noted patterns. Environmental anomalies, objects left untouched, and recurring behavior across multiple incidents. Reports from colonial officers acknowledged consistency. Tracks end abruptly. Men vanish. No explanation. Pattern persists. The bridge revealed that what began in 1932 was not isolated. The Nightwing Shadows motif extended, shaping reality and legend across generations. The bridge prepared the stage for the climax, linking Mount Hagen's peak and beyond. Shadows, disappearances, environmental oddities, and psychological effects all coalesced. Fact and folklore intertwined seamlessly. Hunter's fate was not only physical, but perceptual, a theater of tension. The forest itself became an actor, patient, unseen, orchestrating fear. The motif solidified, leading inexorably toward the highest point of mystery. By late October, the jungle of Mount Hagen had become a stage of relentless fear. Hunters ventured into the dense canopy, spears, glinting knives ready. Every step measured, every breath cautious. Mist clung to limbs, dripped from leaves, thickening the air. Shadows moved across the treetops, faster than sight allowed. Whispers echoed through the valleys, voices calling names, familiar yet wrong. Something unseen watched from above, calculating, silent, deliberate. Campsites were abandoned mid-meal, fires still warm, knives and tools arranged meticulously, footprints leading into dense undergrowth, ending abruptly. No sign of struggle, no blood, only absence. Patrols found the remnants of daily life, as if the men had simply vanished. Objects shifted overnight, spears embedded in impossible angles, trees clawed deeply. The forest's hand left its mark, patient, invisible, omnipresent. Survivors described flapping above the canopy, enormous wings that eclipsed sunlight, shadows gliding silently, faster than any bird, eyes glinting like molten gold, following, observing, waiting. Voices whispered from treetops, mimicking friends, luring hunters deeper, a presence beyond human comprehension. Every sound amplified, every rustle a threat. The forest itself seemed alive, responsive, aware of intruders. One journal partially destroyed revealed a chilling encounter. I heard my friend call. I ran, turned. He was gone. Nothing remained. The shadows above moved silently, wings dark as night, watching, waiting. The jungle claims its own. Pages torn, ink smudged, words both revealing and concealing. Fear etched into every sentence. The forest remained sovereign, unyielding, impenetrable. Colonial reports confirmed the anomaly. Patrols scoured ridges, valleys, and rivers. Nothing. Objects left untouched. Fires cooled. Tracks disappeared abruptly. Branches broken at unnatural angles. The pattern persisted. 7 men gone within weeks. All evidence documented, yet no explanation satisfied reason. Villagers whispered that the Nightwing Shadows moved beyond the canopy, enforcers of a natural law, silent, relentless. Psychological effects compounded the terror. Survivors' eyes haunted, speech hesitant, motion cautious. Sleep interrupted by whispers. Mist imagined. Shadows imagined. Trees seemed to shift, every rustle suspicious. The forest became a labyrinth of perception and reality. Hunters second-guessed every step, paranoia intertwined with instinct. Fear was both tool and punishment. Reports from other highlands mirrored the pattern. Sepik River, September 1939. Disappearances repeated identically. Fires warm, tools undisturbed, tracks ending abruptly, branches clawed, shadows observed, eyes glowing, hunters' voices trembling, villagers' warnings taken more seriously, motif of the Nightwing Shadows emerging, connecting valleys, decades, and forests. Fear universal, consistent, undeniable. Harrington's notes grew desperate. Observers noted environmental anomalies, sudden fog, unnatural silence, flapping too large for birds, objects mysteriously rearranged. Even skeptical patrols admitted the uncanny consistency. Men vanished without trace. The forest was an active participant, enforcing its own rules, patient, deliberate, a living entity, teaching, punishing, observing. Villagers' accounts deepened the mystery. Nightwing shadows gliding above, voices mimicking loved ones, hunters drawn deeper. Some returned altered, eyes wide, silence replacing boldness. Rituals repeated, offerings left to appease the forest. Survival became intertwined with fear. Compliance with signs ensured life. Missteps brought disappearance. The folklore dictated behavior, reinforced by fact. Photographs taken by missionaries decades later reinforced the terror. Campsites disturbed, spears embedded impossibly, fires cold, tracks ending suddenly, trees clawed, patterns repeated, shadows fleeting. Observers confirmed, evidence tangible, yet inexplicable. Fact and folklore converged seamlessly, terrifying, undeniable, haunting every step. Survivors' testimonies conflicted. Some saw friends vanish mid-step. Others glimpsed wings spanning treetops. Voices called, then silence. Every account unique, yet echoing the same motifs. The bridge between fact and legend dissolved, leaving only dread. The forest and its shadows became a single, omnipresent actor, orchestrating fear, disappearance, and psychological torment. Environmental anomalies intensified. Mist rolling unnaturally. Sounds carrying impossibly. Rustling leaves from no wind. Branches snapping without cause. Air thickening. Hunter's perception distorted. Line between reality and imagination blurred. Nightwing shadows inescapable, patient, intelligent, omnipresent. Every step under scrutiny, every movement observed. Journals recovered later revealed the mental toll. I hear voices, friends calling. I run, turn, nothing. Shadows above, wings moving. The forest tests us. We are intruders, insignificant, yet observed, ever observed. Words blurred, ink smudged, fear and awe preserved. The written record mirrored the forest's dominion, ever present, patient, waiting. By the end of October, 7 hunters vanished, campsites abandoned, tools untouched, tracks ending abruptly, flapping sounds above, voices calling, branches clawed, environmental anomalies pervasive, villagers fearful. The forest had claimed dominion, fact and folklore inseparable. The Nightwing shadows endured, orchestrating events, unseen, untouchable, eternal. The climax left a forest alive, patient, relentless. The forest remained silent, yet alive, patient beyond comprehension. Mount Hagen's valleys and ridges held secrets older than memory. The hunters never returned, their lives absorbed into the mist. Only footprints, fires, and whispers lingered. Evidence of existence, then absence. Objects untouched, paths ending abruptly. The Nightwing Shadows moved unseen, orchestrating disappearance, fear, and observation. And villagers continued to whisper, stories of wings gliding above the canopy, eyes reflecting moonlight, voices calling names, familiar, yet wrong. Children grew wary. Elders repeated warnings. Offerings left to appease the forest. The Nightwing Shadows were no longer legend. They were expectation, a looming presence, shaping behavior, enforcing respect. Survival intertwined with caution. Colonial officers recorded the events. Reports, journals, telegrams. Fact and folklore intertwined seamlessly. 7 hunters gone, patrols unsuccessful. Objects mysteriously arranged, branches clawed, mist rolling unnaturally, flapping sounds above. The forest claimed dominion, patient, deliberate. The pattern persisted. Questions outweighed answers. The unexplained prevailed. Even decades later, researchers visiting the highlands noted anomalies, campsites abandoned, tracks disappearing, shadows glimpsed above the canopy, whispers in the wind, objects left intact, rearranged. The forests of New Guinea remained a stage of mystery, fact and folklore merging, reality and perception blurred. The Nightwing Shadows endured, unseen, patient, unstoppable. Survivors' accounts persisted, eyes haunted, speech hesitant, movements careful, mist thick, leaves rustling unnaturally, shadows gliding silently, voices echoing, hunters forever changed, the forest asserting authority. The stories became legend. The legends reinforced caution, fear a tool, a teacher. The Nightwing Shadows became guardians and enforcers, beyond comprehension. Harrington's journals concluded with unease. The jungle offers no answers, only questions. Men vanish, shadows move. The forest observes, patient, deliberate. The Nightwing Shadows are not myth. They are law, unseen, unstoppable. Words blurred, ink smudged, fear preserved. The forest sovereign, the hunters forgotten, the mystery eternal. Observers realized that explanation was beyond reach. Science offered no comfort. Superstition alone seemed insufficient. Yet the pattern endured. Across valleys, across decades, the forest was alive, watching. The Nightwing Shadows continued their silent dominion. The jungle retained control. All who entered were subject. Some returned, others vanished, leaving questions and unease. The bridge between fact and folklore solidified. Every disappearance, every shadow, every environmental anomaly reinforced the motif. Patterns repeated across geography, time, generations. The Nightwing Shadows became an enduring presence, orchestrating events with invisible authority. Fact and legend inseparable, perception shaped by fear. Survival required understanding, respect, caution. Villagers maintained rituals, fires lit at dusk, offerings left at paths. Hunters warned, children instructed, adults cautious. The Nightwing Shadows influenced life. Rules enforced silently. The forest communicated. Boundaries clear. Disobedience punished. Absence enforced. Legend confirmed by fact. Fact reinforced by legend. The pattern was eternal, patient, unbroken. The environmental anomalies persisted. Mist rolling unnaturally. Rustling leaves without wind. Flapping above. Branches breaking. Air thickening. Shadows moving beyond sight. Hunters' senses heightened. Perception distorted. Reality questioned. The Nightwing Shadows were ever present. Testing. Observing. The forest an active actor. Fear woven into every step. Objects left behind told a story. Spears embedded in impossible angles. Knives neatly arranged. Fires still warm. Tracks ending suddenly. Evidence both mundane and inexplicable. The forest's dominion expressed subtly. Men vanished. Absence became evidence. Mystery preserved. The Nightwing Shadows remained beyond reach, unseen, yet undeniably present. Even those who returned were changed. Eyes haunted. Speech hesitant. Movement cautious. Mist imagined. Whispers real. Shadows perceived. Memory unreliable. The forest imposed both physical and psychological dominion. Legends reinforced fear. Fear reinforced caution. Survival dictated by respect. The Nightwing Shadows became an enduring arbiter, unseen, eternal. The pattern transcended generations. Hunters vanished. Stories repeated. Environmental oddities persisted. Mist thickened. Shadows glided. Voices called. Objects rearranged. Evidence remained incomplete. The Nightwing Shadows endured. Law, legend, guardian, predator. Fact and folklore inseparable. The forest sovereign. Its secrets eternal. And so the story ends. For now. Mount Hagen remains a land of mystery. The Nightwing Shadows continue to glide above the treetops. Watching. Waiting. Patient. Men vanish. Stories persist. Fact and legend entwined. The forest holds dominion. Silent, eternal, unseen. The unknown awaits. Ever vigilant. You have just glimpsed another chronicle from Classified Chronicles. A hunter may vanish. A shadow may pass overhead. What you witnessed is real, or perhaps only imagined. The forest keeps its secrets. Are you ready to step closer, or will you heed the warning? The Nightwing Shadows wait, always, patiently, unseen, eternal.